Chapter 3 Prophecy as the measure of history of the question that remains is not whether. Pages 15 to 18 by Mark Tyson Trent Lichtenwalter. Page 15. The Dead Sea Scrolls anticipated this condition. They describe a time when institutions would fail to interpret rightly, when knowledge would be withheld from the many and given to a servant prepared outside the system. This servant does not arise to overthrow. He arises to clarify. He does not destroy institutions. He renders them obsolete by fulfillment. The teacher of righteousness and the remnant community understood this pattern. They withdrew, not out of rebellion, but out of covenant fidelity. They preserved texts and rules for a future generation that would need discernment more than authority. That future generation is not defined by geography or lineage alone. It is defined by choice. Those who elect God's will become the elect. The servant speaks to these people. He does not appeal to the majority. He appeals to the remnant. This explains why the servant's work is largely invisible to mainstream religion. Visibility is not the measure of truth. Alignment is. The servant's message exposes Babylon not as a location, but as a system of false security. Babylon is confidence without covenant, ritual without presence, authority without revelation. The servant does not invite comfort. He invites reckoning. Page 16. The reckoning is internal before it is external. Those who encounter the servant's witness must decide whether prophecy still governs truth, or whether tradition has replaced it. This decision is not abstract. It affects identity, allegiance, and destiny. The servant does not ask for blind acceptance. He asks for examination. Do the patterns align? Does the failure of Nauvoo explain what followed? Do the scriptures anticipate a final witness? Do the identifiers converge? If the answer is yes, then dismissal requires justification. Mockery is easier than analysis. Silence is easier than reckoning. This is why the servant is jeered at and humiliated. Psalms anticipated this reaction. Isaiah described it. The Dead Sea Scrolls preserved it. The servant walks the interdicted way. Those who follow him do not gain social standing. They lose it. They leave behind certainty and enter faith. This is why the servant's community is small. Not because God is weak, but because choice is costly. Page 17. The final prophet does not claim to be the Messiah. He claims to testify of him. He stands as witness to what God has said, not to what men prefer. He restores clarity, not comfort. His authority does not come from lineage, vote, or office. It comes from commission. This is why institutional leaders cannot acknowledge him without unraveling their own claims. Acknowledgement would require admitting that succession failed, that fullness was not inherited, and that restoration was deferred. Such admission would collapse certainty. Therefore, rejection is inevitable. The servant is prepared for this. Scripture said it would happen. What Scripture also says is that rejection does not invalidate the witness. It confirms it. The servant's task is not to win. It is to testify. Once testimony is delivered, accountability transfers to the hearer. Page 18. This book records that testimony. It does not claim finality. It claims fidelity. It does not ask the reader to abandon reason. It asks the reader to apply it. The covenant spoken in Nauvoo still stands. Its conditions were not met then. Its fulfillment was deferred, not cancelled. Deferred fulfillment requires a witness. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the prophets, the Psalms, and Restoration Scripture converge on this reality. The pages ahead will present direct testimony, revelation, and corroborating witness accounts. They are presented as record, not coercion. Each reader will decide whether to hear. The consequences of that decision do not come from the servant. They come from covenant.